Hey guys, it's Andrew Maguire here, and I'm going to be doing just a sort of 10-15 minute tutorial on how to retouch a landscape photo taken with a big stopper. So first things first, I'm going to jump straight into this, and I'm going to get things. I'm going to start getting in. Basically, I want to get in the habit of removing things first rather than last, because believe it or not, I tried to do this tutorial yesterday and tried to remove this boat here last, but because I'd made graduated skies and I'd played around with the actual picture a lot, it wasn't easy at all. In fact, it was very, very difficult. So I just ended up not bothering. I went to bed and I didn't make the video. I deleted it because I thought there's no way I can publish this because I'll be teaching you to do something wrong. So my advice would be just to get rid of anything that you don't want to be there first. So what I've done there straight away, I have cloned, not healed, because I find that healing leaves a little bit of what would you call that? Like an inverted halo, a dark, dirty halo. I don't know. For some things it really works, like removing spots from people's faces, that sort of thing. But for actually getting rid of something, I would always recommend cloning something from a nearby group of pixels. So I'd always do that. What I always like to do as well is I will just soften the area that we have used. Just soften that a little, just to check that there's no brushes, no brush marks or anything like that. And if it doesn't look any good, then we can always get rid of it. So let me just zoom out and see how that looks. That might look quite dreamy. No, that looks rubbish. So I'm going to actually get rid of that. So that's the first little bit of nonsense that I've said to you, is to don't actually do anything that I ever say. But I think that actually looks pretty good. So sometimes you can see my point though. You can actually just get the clarity brush, take all the clarity out of it, and just draw along the edge to try and blend it in a little bit. But on this occasion, I don't think we need to. So let me just talk about the composition. This is in Pembrokeshire, for those of you who are not from the UK, which is a westerly point of the UK, which is in Wales, and it's like a very rocky, exposed cliff part of the UK, because it's constantly getting battered by the I guess it's the jet stream or the Atlantic Ocean that's just battering that sort of coastline, and there is some really, really cool pictures to be had. So I found this little composition and I got the the big stopper out, and I thought I might be able to get a cool little shot. So I shot this with my 24-105 lens with my 6D, and shot settings were f10, ISO 100 as low as possible, of course. I selected f10, so that's almost where my camera's sweet spot is, and I exposed for around about 8 seconds, as you can see. So first things first, you've got to decide whether you want this picture to be a colour shot or black and white, but of course there's hardly any exciting colours in this. It's so grey, so we have to go black and white. So first of all, what I'm going to look to do is to work with the sky. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a graduated filter, and I might grab a couple of little grad filters actually. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to just drop that down. That's it. And darkening the sky gives a really nice little vignetted effect. And I'm going to do another one. You know what? I'm actually not. I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to select a brush. So I'm going to darken, take the clarity out slightly, and just darken ever so slightly. I'm just going to darken there and there, just because I wanted you to be able to see the difference between the land, the water, and the sky. So if I can just play around with this, see how that looks. See how my highlights were almost borderline lost. If I drop the highlights, look at how much there's no information there because I was slightly overexposed. So I'm going to drop the highlights just a tad, and I might drop the shadows as well. Does that make any difference? Yeah, let's drop the shadows. I'm going to drop the exposure on that thing I've just drawn as well. but not too much, because you can see that little alarming white bit. So I'm just going to go back up to that graduated filter, and I'm going to drop the exposure even more, because add a little bit more drama. There we go, that looks pretty cool. Cool, right. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm not saying that sky is a finished article. In fact, I don't think it is, because I've just seen another part of it that I don't like, so I'm going to take back up to normal. That's fine. So I'm going to leave that little black area, because I think that's fine. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is play with the cliffs. So I'm going to press I to get rid of that information, and I'm going to select my brush, and I'm going to get cracking on the clarity. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to be dodging. So I'm going to be picking out the areas that I think would benefit from being lightened up. And let's just bring the clarity in there. Good. Now what I wanted to do is I want to show the area where the water just kisses those rocks, because you know, in about 6, 7, 8, maybe 12 hours time, I would have been underwater where I was stood. So the water actually rises up to 9 meters in this area, which is apparently the second highest in the whole world, behind Canada, which is astounding, which is ridiculous, isn't it? So I'm also going to do the opposite. I'm going to burn the darker areas, which are the grassy areas. So I'm going to get rid of those. Well, not get rid, but I'm just going to really try and hike up the contrast by burning those areas. And again, I'm going to stick up the clarity there. So already that's looking a lot better. Now with the normal brush, I'm just going to do the rest of where I haven't touched with the clarity at a neutral exposure. I'm just going to hit those rocks there because I think they're quite interesting, and the rocks that are immediately underneath where the tide normally sits. Let's just changing the size of the brush constantly to try not to draw on the water. And if you have, you can obviously just select your selected mask overlay to see what you've done. Press Alt and just delete those little oopsie daisy bits. That's a very British saying, isn't it, for anyone who's not British? Oopsie daisy. Very, very, in the film Notting Hill, inaccurately portrayed, because they always say whoopsie daisies. No one in this country ever says that. No one ever says plural of whoopsie daisy. That does not exist. I don't even know what a whoopsie daisy is. Right, so I'm probably going to go a little bit further with the clarity there on that line. Let me just bring the shadows up. That's it. I'm going to bring the detail in the shadows up. I'm even going to play with the highlights as well. Good, that's starting to look pretty sexy. That's good. So that side of the rock is done, and we'll do the opposite, which is this little pier. So again, I'm going to select a brush. Let's dodge. Let's dodge. So I'm going to make an imaginary line, if we can't already see one, that's the same height as the part on the picture which is on the left. In fact, that might be a bit low, mightn't it? So let's go with that. That would look pretty cool. And let's really enhance the clarity there so we can see the cracks. There, this is starting to look pretty sexy already. I like this. Good, good, good. And again, just like we did with the rock, let's select a dodge tool, and like a sandwich, let's sandwich those light spots in with the dark bits. And again, it doesn't matter if you're really bang on the money with what you're drawing, because these bits of texture are so, they're so weathered and stuff like that. So you can get away with, if something is not quite accurate. I think that looks pretty cool. Does that look pretty level to you? I think I might draw on this one just a little bit higher. Almost to the level of the top level. And I might draw the darkness, I might just pick that up a bit. Oh, whoopsie daisies. Just drawn on the sky. Cool, so that looks pretty cool so far. I like that. Yeah, Good, good, good. That's working. That's a worker. Right, now next thing, the rocks in the foreground. Now I'm not saying that this composition is going to, beat the world. I don't think it is that good at all. I'm not that arrogant to say that I know exactly, what the perfect photograph is. I like these rocks. I think they make a nice little addition to the picture. So guess what? They're in my picture. It's as simple as that. I think they make a nice little foreground element, which again is a really, really important part of photography. Otherwise, you just have a lot of dead space, which incidentally there is. But in this instance, I think this dead space can be quite interesting because the light hitting the middle ground is actually, quite pleasant, quite nice to look at. That being said, I still want to really enhance the clarity in some of these rocks. So let's darken some of those darker areas. Yeah, that looks good. So with dodging and burning, the light does the job for you. It tells you where's light and where's dark. You can see that with your own eye. You can see where the sun will hit something, and probably on the other side of it, it will be light or dark because the sun has or hasn't hit it. So, that's the basis on which you work. It's common sense, really. As soon as you've mastered it, it just seems so easy. Right. I don't like that little spot there. That's just caught my eye. Don't quite need that. Right, so that is the rocks in the foreground done. So that's looking pretty cool. In fact, I just want to pick a bit more of attention over here to that rock on the left. So I'm actually going to lighten that because that's falling by the wayside, isn't it? So I'm going to really hike up the exposure. Hike is a funny word, isn't it? Sounds like some sort of Dutch word or German word. Hike. Cool. Okay, that's looking good. Now what I'm going to do is get cracking on the water. So first of all, I'm going to get the radial filter. I always forget what it's called. Yes, the radial filter. And we're going to draw some shapes. And we're going to manipulate the eye into where we want them to look. So I want to draw a couple of little light spots. Draw these nice little ovals. Really do help. And again, with your C, just take all the clarity out. You can lighten and you can take the exposure up, but oops. But make sure. Hang on a minute. What am I doing? Sorry, I just realised I'd selected my clone stamp tool, or whatever the Lightroom equivalent is. So just keep your brushes in different shapes and sizes, and then you can play about with highlights and shadows. Cool. I'm going to do one here. It's just slightly off center, I think. That's pretty cool. No, actually, I'm not feeling that. So I think that's a good thing with editing is you can do something, and at the stroke of a brush you can undo it because you can think, no, actually, that doesn't look any good at all. And you can even add in some dark spots. It's not all about the light spots. And again, all I'm doing is just like I would with the, in fact, that looks a bit too symmetrical, doesn't it? Because it's like the other one. So I'm going to change the angle of that. And I'm going to do a few on these, around these rocks. There we go. Let's just group those together. Let's darken that around, and let's go against what I was saying. Let's enhance the clarity because there are some rocks in that little section, so that looks pretty good. So we're nearly done. That's pretty good so far. I'm going to go full screen, and I'm going to see what I think. Is there anything there that's really concerning me? Maybe this little spot I just pointed, but I realised you couldn't see that. This point on the right here, I don't like it. I'm going to get rid. I don't like that at all. I'm probably just going to draw a brush over those darker areas just to enhance. Just to enhance those darker areas. Which I think looks cool. Remember, photography is all about light. So you at your fingertips have got the opportunity to give light to people. So don't waste the opportunity. Now in the foreground as well, one thing I do like to do on the water is to try and bring out the foreground, the rocks that are underneath. So I'm going to go clarity 100. I'll probably get the exposure quite high. I'm just going to do a little brush here, a little brush in between the rocks there. Because as a general rule, the darker areas of the sea are normally the deeper parts, aren't they? And the lighter parts are the parts that you can see into. Not always a rule of thumb, but it's not far away. Right, there we go. I think that's a finished article. One last thing that I always do with my shots, I'm going to stick a little bit of sharpening in there just to bring out the textures and the tones. And finally, I'm going to add a vignette. I think that really just brings the eye to the rocks and the interesting parts of the composition. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's how to retouch a landscape during the day with a 10-stop leaf filter, a big stopper. So thanks very much, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this mini tutorial. It's probably gone on a little bit longer than I wanted it to. Please subscribe, tell your friends. See you on the next one. Cheers, guys.